of all, this is not a pitch about our company. We are here to share about our learnings in the industry, our expectation of this market, and how we can help companies comply with the law, whoever the vendor may be. So Sunshine, as she's already given an introduction, we are India's most experienced corporate creche provider, 40 plus centers and expanding nationwide. And most importantly, as I said, since it is all related to you and what you want to get covered, my slides are only for next 10 minutes and then the floor is open. So since we may not be able to allow all 60, 70 people to ask their questions, you have the option of sending your questions on WhatsApp. The number is at the bottom and we will take those before we end the session. We will make sure those are answered for you and for others who may have the same question. So we'll move on to the next slide and we'll just take a quick background about what exactly is this space doing today. So India industry background and the context. So you're all familiar that India is a jugaad nation, quick fix solutions, but this is not a business opportunity. This is not something that should be moving between hype and pessimism. This should not be something where a mom and pop preschool, which is bleeding in revenue, becomes a creche suddenly overnight because there's a good chance here. And it is also not just about complying with the law. So what is this about? It is about improving business practices. It is about aligning corporate objectives with that, which was the original goal of the bill anyway. So how do we go about this? The first step, what we recommend our leads and customers is to do an internal survey. First ask and find out how many need the service. How many employees do you have with children below 6 years of age? And what is their preference? For example, we have many customers who went ahead and set up, at least 3 customers I can recall, who set up an in-house creche and later on they came to know that parents are not comfortable bringing their children so far because it is not conveniently located, or they don't want their child to have 1 hour drive every day in the morning just to come to the office location. So that internal survey to know which model, she mentioned 3 models, which model is useful, that survey should be done. Next, then check your corporate policies. We have a lot of MNCs ask us questions. We have other people who are local, large corporate in India ask us questions saying, my HR policy says this is conflicting with certain requirements of the law. How can I strike a balance between the two? And I assure you, there is a way to match the two. That's the next step. And the third thing is those who are in large campuses or you have SEZ where you are located, you should talk to the developers or real estate managers and find options. A lot of people think carving out 2,500 or 3,000 square feet is not feasible in their particular operation. But then they are surprised to know that there was an earmarked space for cafeteria which can be shared. There was something for a gym, or maybe there's a common location at the cellar which was for retail space, some shops and all which now can be reconfigured. So these are the 3 main things that we feel. And once it is done, a big failure in today's industry so far in the last 1.5 to 2 years after this bill has come is that if the rentals being paid by the creche providers are very high, then obviously they try to pass on their cost to the employees, and that becomes an unaffordable thing and penetration is low. So that's the last thing that we want. We want this industry to grow well. So one size doesn't fit all regions and verticals, and the takeaway at the bottom is objective of the law should be met. Attrition drop and gender diversity will automatically follow based on that. So we'll move on to the next slide and quickly talk about option 1. I once again remind you, if you want to send a WhatsApp message, we'll take your questions live before this is over. So first option, in-house creche center. What should you ask? So when a vendor comes to you and there'll be so many people approaching you all over the country, all of you have joined in from different locations. The first thing is, what guidance do they offer in setting up the creche facility? Because starting, you get a shell space of 3,500 or 3,000 or 2,500 square feet. Some of them are even 5,000 and 6,000 square feet. So you need to start off with how many rooms are required, what are the layouts, is there a CAD diagram available, how many restrooms, what is the kind of child-friendly restroom that should be there. Based on these details, is there a feeding room required? So there are multiple layout options and technical specifications which need to be there, and your vendor should be able to give you multiple options, should have experience in pros and cons of each, depending on the layout of the location, the emergency exit, etc. Next comes statutory compliances. Oh, this is fun to do. There are more than 12 statutory compliances that suddenly come into play. You have Wages Act, you have minimum wages. Apart from minimum wages, you are getting into various different filings, returns that you have to do to various organizations. So ask them for a list of compliances they need to do, because if you are the primary employer to your employee, The responsibility for all compliance rests with you. And those of you who are in HR and listening today, you know very well what that means, or those who are in admin. So these audits are very important and statutory compliance steps should be sought. Next, learning activities, events and celebrations. Let's think of it logically. When we got into this, if you see our background, we were IT professionals, we were first generation entrepreneurs starting off in 2005. And then we realized that we are taking up a new business area. We are trying to teach the kids something when they are spending 9 hours at our center. Now, 80% of a child's cognitive development is over by the time the child is 8 years of age. So if you treat the creche as a parking ground, then it's going to be a big problem because the child is deprived of many of those learning processes and practices. So what is the learning activity, and are there enough events and celebrations there? This is another important question to ask. Next one is on refresher training, monitoring and evaluation. Any process, system, and all of you are experts in your respective domains, is only as good as the monitoring and the evaluation that we do on an ongoing basis. So ask them for those checklists. How frequently do they come? How do they monitor the center team from corporate? These are important things. And then day-to-day operations and activities, that's a standard thing. What do they implement? For example, we came up with the concept of daycare kit, again for the first time in India. The daycare kit is basically what is going to be taught to children from morning till night. What exactly will be the report cards that we will give? Will we give child milestone development reports? How exactly are the motor skills being tracked? What happened in first term to second term? These are very, very important things. So in summary, option 1, in our opinion, is the best one. It pays for itself many times over. However, for those, we'll move on to option 2. For those where option 1 does not seem feasible, either due to number of employees being low, the requirement being low, or some corporate policies which do not allow you to do that. So option 2 is talking about a nearby center. So set up an off-site creche. What are the questions do you ask a vendor now? Is it exclusive for your company, or is he going to share it with multiple people? Because many times they say, oh, we'll set up one nearby, but then if it is not financially viable, if they are trying to keep it exclusive to you, then it won't be long-term. So you're better off allowing him to keep it as a shared service. Next, are the seats blocked or based on demand? We had a lot of people who just said, oh, just do a tie-up. It's okay. Your center is next to my office. Just do a tie-up. But when their employees came, we didn't have seats for them. So we encouraged them, and you should encourage your vendor to block certain number of seats and say that irrespective of whether my employees come or not, this is what I need to protect at your center. Third is popularizing the service among employees. When you take up an offsite creche, the biggest challenge is how do employees come to know about it? Even though they may have got an email, we do a workshop in their cafeteria, we are there in a common time when they have an open house, everything you do, but you'll be surprised that the awareness level is very difficult to go beyond 35-40% in large organizations. So popularizing the service amongst employees needs to be a dedicated focus. Next is transportation facility from your office. A lot of people become uncomfortable when the child is coming to office and then has to be sent there. Who's going to accompany? Is there an ayah in the transport? So the easiest thing to do is that they should drop and pick up. And is there any transportation there? That's something you should check. All operational points that I mentioned on the previous slide, the learning and activity points that I mentioned, they continue as normal. That should also obviously be followed. And the last point, again, very important. As organization in charges, keep a control on pricing and ensure affordability. We have lots of complaints from parents saying my company has tied up, but they're asking us to pay 14, 16, 18, 20,000 rupees a month. Is it even practical? So for example, when we get into tie-ups, we say that, okay, we'll give you a guarantee that the fee won't be more than 9,500 rupees a month. But this is the assurance that I need from you. So ensuring affordability, I think, is the responsibility of corporates. Tag away there, limited liability, but still retaining control over services, quality, and the service offering. So we'll go to the last one in my last 3 minutes about option 3. This is the most easiest option. A lot of people are opting for it if they do not want to navigate the maze right now. What are the questions to ask? Do you have a network of centers? Are they near my employee residences? We had a customer where they found out that close to about 20% of the 1,000 employees that they had lived in a particular locality. And that became very easy for them to take a decision because we had a center in that location. So evaluating the network is important. Number 2, if you provide transport, you need to align the vehicle routes and see the convenience of the employees. Next point is Google Maps and routing plans. So what we did is we took a Google map, we mapped all our centers, then we took the routes of the vendor, all the bus routes that they were following, and they had some 16 different bus routes which were going on. And we were able to show that 80% of the employees would be able to drop off their kids at one or more centers in the city. And that kind of a routing and planning should be done if you're taking option 3. And again, how do you popularize? That's again a standard problem. And the last point is ask for periodic HR audits, CCTV access, and freedom to walk through and give inputs whenever you want. So there will be a person in your organization who will be in charge, and he should be able to do these things. So the third one is a hands-off approach, but at the same time, it adheres to the letter of the law. There may be some benefits, a lot of benefits you may be losing, but at least you are not foul of the law, you are taking care, you are giving some value to your employees. It's a good solution to have for a lot of companies, mostly the sub 1,000 employees one. So we are through with the main 3 options which are there. I'll take just 1 minute to summarize the next slide, where I'm trying to show you an idea about the skill development when we talk. So these are 6 pictures that you see on your screen: language skills, gross motor skills, fine motor, emotional, creative, social. There are a lot of things that have to be tracked as the child is getting taken care of, depending on their respective age group. The next slide. This is on events and celebrations. So what activity schedule should be there, how the children use those activities to learn. That is very, very important. And the last slide. Not too much on this, it's just about SatNav. We are a group that has had a collaboration with 2 UK organizations. So we are trying to bring the best of world-class activities and implement here. And the goal is to satisfy all components here: the corporate partner, the parents, and the children. So this is how we focus and make sure that whatever learning we are imparting is taken in the best of spirit, and children are getting the best care during the course of the day. So we'll open the floor now to questions that you have. Thanks, Divya.
Yeah, Mr. Amit, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I am Colonel Pitre from Mahindra United World College in Pune. Now, we are an international college that is located at a very, very remote location on top of a hill. And we really don't have, and we have no flexibility of any creche being nearby to our location. I mean, the nearest civilization is about 15 kilometers away. Now, the issue is that most of our labor force that is there, which constitutes majority of our employees, belong to the local villages. So the utilization could be just about 1 child or maybe 2 children at any point of time maximum. So for that, what would you suggest? I mean, this near home concept is something, if you could kindly elaborate.
Sure. In your scenario, if you're sure that the requirement is only 1 or 2, I don't think you should try to get any vendor. The best thing would be that you'll have housekeeping staff, you'll have some security staff, and your housekeeping vendor, if he can give an extra caretaker who can be trained by someone who's experienced in the creche setup, and the children are looked after by them. That would be my quick answer to that. And if you have anything specific, we have a lot of clients who have remote locations. We can always take it offline.
Yeah, I have spoken to somebody in Sunshine earlier. I mean, you're Hyderabad based, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll catch you offline. Now, secondly, the option that you have given of putting a housekeeping staff to, and we'll set up the creche under consultation with a authorized agency. But will that meet the legal requirements of the creche?
As of now, the legal requirements are more focused on quality and standards. So if you are able to prove that the number of employees looking at the service is not too many, and what you are doing under those standards are well taken care. We have a lot of customers who may say, for example, providing meals is said to be compulsory under the Act. But we do run centers in those locations, and we have explained to the inspector when they come that parents want to give the food, and here are the declarations by all of them. So what will they say? They cannot say, no, you feed them outside food. So there will be a solution. We'll touch base with you offline, and we will find a way to adhere to both.
Okay. Thank you, Amit.
Perfect. Next one is from Colonel Pitre, and his question is, what about educational institutions? Can you please elaborate on what is near home creche concept? Can I get a copy of Amit's presentation? Sir, educational institutions, anybody with employees more than 50 is automatically covered. We have ISB as a client of ours in Hyderabad and in Mohali, and many other educational institutions are giving out tenders to different companies. And the near home concept is basically you set up something nearby. So something not in your campus necessarily, but just outside your campus in a 1 kilometer radius. So the next question is from Apurva, and he had a question on the same off-site creche and vouchers, which has already been answered. And the next question is covering the safety guidelines when it is off-site or when I'm giving vouchers. So we have some clients where they have chosen off-site or they're even using our centers, but the contract gives them the right to do periodic audits. It gives their admin team the right to come and give inputs on safety features, fire safety alarm systems, CCTV functionality, and there are multiple audits that happen during the course of the year. So to answer your question, Apurva, the contract, you just ask your vendor that in the contract itself, you should have the right to audit the service. And next question is, again, there's a quick one from Deepthi. If we do not get anything near office and we decide to go for a reimbursement model, will we meet the legal requirement? I think that has also been answered by Divya now. So that is one way of meeting the requirement for now. Next question is from Anashri. Are there any conditions to the creche if an employee wants to avail only few days a month? So can we allow that for 1 year, admission of 1 year, and not for children below 1 year? This is mostly left to the corporate. I think beyond 6 months, it would be difficult to deny admission because you're saying that the mother should come back after maternity leave. So most of our customers say that after 6 months, the child is allowed. In fact, in our own centers, we had earlier stopped taking children below 12 months, and we had to revise the decision once the maternity bill came in place. On the other thing about a few days a month, we call it as casual daycare. And that is something which can be a very big value add and a good selling point during your HR discussions. Because if you say casual daycare is allowed, people can come 4 days, 5 days in a month when they have some urgency on a particular day, when school is closed on that particular day, the child is a preschool child. It is a very, very good initiative if you can introduce that. But having said that, yeah, then you'll have to keep some seats available. Like if you look at our 25 centers, hardly 3 or 4 would be able to accommodate casual daycare because the center is full and there's also a waiting list. So within the limits of the law, you can do it. It's a good HR practice also, but you need to have space available.